After 6 long years, Miami Dolphins are finally back in the playoffs. It feels good. It feels really good. It also feels good to beat the Jets. For as coma-inducing as that game was yesterday, third-string quarterback versus third-string quarterback, I will take an 11-6 win. I would have taken a 2-0 win if that was what it took to beat the New York stinking Jets. And the Bills took care of the Patriots, so we got the results we needed, and the Miami Dolphins are headed to the postseason. I'm Alex Donno alongside former Miami Dolphin Troy Stradford. Troy, it's been way too long, but we're in the playoffs, baby.
It's funny. Today, I had to go back and look. Like, I don't recall hearing it yesterday. The last time the Miami Dolphins were in the playoffs, so it was back in 2016. And I was like, what the heck was I doing back in 2016? I couldn't remember. I didn't have any idea what was going on. But I will say this. When it comes to yesterday's football action, and yes, we had the Buffalo Bills game on down here. We had the Dolphins game down here. I'm going back and forth, channel to channel to channel. Actually missed the opening kickoff for the Bills.
Oh, and that was a good kickoff to watch.
It's like, are you kidding me? That is unbelievable what he did. And then he came back and scored a second touchdown kickoff return, which is very impressive. I know it happened before, but I don't recall it happening. And so I'm going back and forth, right, Donald? Back and forth. And then finally I go, this is working out. This is working out. The Bills are doing what they need to do. And the Dolphins, they're in a dogfight. And I got nervous at the end when the Jets got the balls. But the Dolphins, not the last drive, prior to the last drive, but the Dolphins defense came up big, made the big play. Xavier Howard had good coverage on that one pass to the wide receiver, Wilson, who was kicking their butt all day long. And he made the play. And then our guy, who we've been very critical of, and rightfully so, Jason Sanders. He comes through with the 50-yard field goal. And it was like, nice. Let me pop open this beer. Actually, I popped open one before that. Let me pop open this beer, enjoy it.
You need to drink before Jason Sanders attempts a kick as well. You need to.
I was. I couldn't help myself. I had a couple beers, no doubt.
Yeah, I was doing a post game on WQAM last night, and I gave the player of the game to Jason Sanders because why the hell not? I mean, nobody scored any touchdowns on either team. Neither defense had any takeaways. Oddly enough, it was a turnover-free game. There was only one sack the entire game, and it was
really.
Yeah, there was only one. It was a weird game, Troy. I mean,
very weird.
Yeah, I mean, no turnovers, hardly any points scored, no touchdowns. Mike McDaniel finally won his first coach's challenge of the year.
Yes.
Isn't that another? I couldn't believe he was 0-5 heading into that final challenge that he actually won, and he went 1 for 2 in that game. But on what they called it a catch by Garrett Wilson, but it clearly hit the ground. I mean, it was a great challenge by Mike McDaniel, but he's had some clunker challenges this year.
When I saw the replay, I said, wait a minute. They need to go take another look at that because that ball looked like it hit the ground quite a bit. So thankfully it worked out for the Miami Dolphins because the Jets would have been on the move from there.
Yeah, and it was that type of day, and obviously I know big picture it doesn't really feel like the football gods have been very kind to the Dolphins, but at least on that one Sunday, the football gods were smiling on us because I went into yesterday and I've been a Dolphin fan my entire life, and over the last 20 years, you just expect Murphy's Law. Like you expect anything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. So I thought, oh well, if the Dolphins win this game, the Patriots will find a way to beat the Bills. I'm thinking we're going to get the help from the Bills, and then the Dolphins will choke and they'll find a way to lose. I didn't think that you would actually have both of the things you needed to happen fall into place. Especially, let's start with Skylar Thompson. Thankfully, Skylar Thompson got to go up against, 100-year-old Joe Flacco and a Jets offense who also had, I think, 3 starting offensive linemen missing, and the Dolphins offensive line has been banged up, and Teron Armstead didn't play. But I think it's pretty obvious, and we're going to talk about next week a little bit later, but it's pretty obvious Skylar Thompson is, he's not exactly a poised Tua Tagovailoa replacement at the moment, putting it kindly. But he did make some throws, Troy. And I think the most important thing about Skylar Thompson's day was there was nothing special about what he did out there except for the fact that he didn't throw any picks and he didn't lose any fumbles. That was the key for him.
And that is the key in games that you have to win. You have to win that turnover battle. But like you said, there were no turnovers, right? So the Miami Dolphins could ill afford to turn that football over in that game against the New York Jets. Because if you had given anyone a short field, they probably would have scored another 3 points because nobody was scoring a touchdown, right? But I looked at Skylar Thompson and I said, okay, he looks better than the first time that he had the opportunity to go out there and play. And I made the point last week that this should be a little bit different because he had an entire week to prepare to play this game. So the Miami Dolphins weren't asking him to win the game. They pretty much were asking him, don't lose this game. So the first time he played, he's a little bit more erratic in that football game. And so it was nice to see him grow. And every young player needs that. And I go back and I look at the situation that I was in personally. I'm playing a running back position, but the nerves that I had going into my first NFL game, the second, the third, I was nervous as anything. And I go, can you imagine a rookie quarterback? Because all I had to do was worry about my assignment, just my assignment, no one else's assignment, and get the snap count down right. And I was fine. Quarterbacks have to know both wide receivers, the tight end, the running back, the offensive lineman. It is absolutely like astronomical what these young quarterbacks do, how they play, filtering all of that information in a short period of time. Because let's face it, it's only like 3 seconds. We look at the play clock and all of that, but the time he gets to the line of scrimmage and he starts scanning the defense, we look at the clock, watching the game, the snap count clock is dwindling down, 5, 4, 3. He has to make all of these adjustments, call the right play, know where the defense is going. And to get that done, that is like a monumental task for young quarterbacks. So I'm just glad that he did not turn the football over.
Yeah, and he gets his first NFL victory, regular season. That is, he was the preseason MVP, but he gets his first bona fide NFL victory. And before we get to who may be the quarterback next week, there's one more thing about this game I wanted to ask you, Troy. I like what Mike McDaniel did, what he requested of the stadium, that, because they have the out of town scoreboard, on the banners in the stadium, but McDaniel specifically requested, and his request was granted, that they do not show the Patriots Bills score on the scoreboard because he didn't want him seeing it or his players seeing it and maybe affecting their attitude towards the game. I love it. Now, when I heard about that, my first thought was, that kind of sucks for the fans. But then I realized, wait, what year is it? Everybody's got their smartphone. No, they don't even need to have a scoreboard out there. They're all looking at their, it doesn't matter. They're all looking at their phones. Right. Obviously, players are not supposed to have their phones with them on the bench or anything, so they're not looking at the scores. So I thought that was actually really cool that McDaniel did not want anyone on his sideline aware of what was happening in that other game because he just wanted them to only focus on what they can control.
And I agree with his decision to do that. And although you weren't aware of the score of the Buffalo Bills game, on the scoreboard, you could tell a little bit from the reaction of the crowd. All of a sudden, the Miami Dolphins in a timeout and they start cheering. People are like, what the hell is going on? The players are like, what's going on? The Buffalo Bills just returned to opening kickoff, just took the lead, had this game in control. So there was ways to get that information out. But I agree with the coach 100% in the fact that you just don't want people scoreboard watching. You don't want you want their eyes on the action on the field as opposed to up on the big jumbotron that the Miami Dolphins have inside that stadium, like over your right shoulder, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to remind everybody, by the way, if you're watching us live at 3:10 p.m. here on the East Coast or wherever you're watching us from, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to 5 Reasons Sports on YouTube. And you can also you can use the live chat. I want to say hello to Kubice, hello to Andy. You know where Andy's from, Troy? He's over in Scotland. He's a massive Dolphin fan living across the pond.
Wow. He has to be a little bit older, around my age probably, because there was a time when people abroad across the pond, they became Dolphin fans because the Miami Dolphins were highly visible at the time.
Yeah.
The NFL, there was no social media and all of that. And the Miami Dolphins, they had a great tradition and history. And so a lot of people across the pond, they became Miami Dolphin fans, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, Dallas Cowboy fans. They weren't fans of like the New York Jets or the Detroit Lions. But now, because of social media and the access that we have to any information at our fingertips, you have fans from every single team. So kudos to him for sticking in there being a Dolphin fan.
He says he's been a fan since '84, and hello to Vent as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. So, all right, we're going to have a very, very tall order, and we do have the game time, by the way, for this coming. It's going to be on Sunday. I know that there's 2 windows for games on Saturday. There's 3 windows on Sunday, and there's a Monday night game. And what do they call this now? Super wild card weekend, or like turbo wild card weekend, or something? Wild card weekend plus. I don't know, but whatever it is.
Okay. People say this is the best football weekend of the year. And I kind of agree with that. I mean, you have excellent games that are going on, great matchups that are going on. It's on Saturday, it's on Sunday, and it's on Monday.
Yeah.
So you have an entire weekend. Get all of your honeydews out of the way, get everything taken care of so you can sit down and enjoy a lot of football.
Yeah, this is a weekend where it's always aggravating to have a spouse who is not a sports fan, because every year I've got to explain to my wife, because she doesn't know that it's coming, and I'm going to have the talk with her over the next couple of days. Like, by the way, Saturday, I mean, maybe like early in the day Saturday, we can take my kids somewhere, because I think the first Saturday game is at 4:00, but Sunday, I'm out of commission for half the day Saturday. I'm out of commission for the entire day on Sunday. So there's really not too much family time that can be had this week. I'm going to have to explain that to her, as I do every single year.
You're not the only one in that situation. I'm not in that situation, but you're not the only one in that situation. And so, give her a couple bucks, tell her to go shopping.
Right. And so the Dolphins game is going to be Sunday at 1 p.m. on the road at the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Let's take a look at the slate this weekend on Prize Picks. So, guys, if you haven't done this by now, I don't know what you're waiting for. If you sign up at prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks mobile app, you can get selections on all the games coming up this weekend. You can make selections on the national championship game coming up tonight. By the way, Troy, do you like TCU or Georgia? I like TCU plus 12.5. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they can cover.
I like what you're saying. I would go in that direction. Remember a few weeks ago, I watched TCU and I said, I really like that quarterback for TCU.
Yes.
Duggan is his name?
Duggan? Yeah, Duggan. Yeah.
Duggan. I really like the way he plays, and they got a couple of running backs that could run the ball as well. Now, Georgia, they are stacked defensively. Yeah. Forget about the offense. They are stacked defensively. And what's going to win this game, it's going to be the offense, obviously, but you have to play some good defense in this game to win. I'm leaning towards TCU myself. I would take the 12 points, absolutely.
Well, and let me give you the Prize Picks numbers, because they have both of the quarterbacks on there for tonight. So Max Duggan, you mentioned the TCU quarterback, and then you've got Stetson Bennett on the Georgia side. incredible story. I mean, he's going for his second straight national title. This guy's a former walk-on. I mean, it's an unbelievable story, Bennett. Duggan, his over-under is just 235.5 yards for passing yards. Bennett is over-under 278.5. So I don't know. I'm kind of liking that Duggan over. I might go over on
you
both.
like one over, one under, right?
I don't know. I might go over on both. Like I could see Bennett, just with all the talent Georgia has. I could see Bennett, getting a couple of like big gains from his receivers. So I might go over for both of them. I think it could be a high scoring game.
I'm going to enjoy this game. I'll go with TCU over, Georgia under. Okay. And the under scares me as well. Both of them should go over in this game. Usually the national championship game is kind of, fireworks everywhere, big plays everywhere, guys stepping up. And imagine the situation that these young guys are in, right? They just spent an entire week. Where's the championship game? Where is it?
Oh, you know what? I'm not even sure.
I'm not even sure where it is. It doesn't matter. Wherever the game is, what happens bowl week? But this is the national championship bowl week, right?
Yep.
But what normally happens when you're playing college football is they do a phenomenal job of setting up two teams, right? The opponents. Mm-hmm. They do everything together. They do lunch together. They do dinner together. They have a tug of war together. Everything is competition the entire week. And you learn to truly hate that other team all week long. They have an eating contest. Who can eat the most hot dogs or the most burgers or what? Yeah, they have everything is a competition. And so now these young guys, they have an incredible weekend 18 in the National Football League, and they're watching these guys play because that's their aspiration, and they're sitting there just getting pumped up. This game is going to be incredible tonight. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So looking at the NFL slate on Prize Picks for wildcard weekend, and by the way, Prize Picks is so easy, guys. I don't know why you haven't signed up yet if you haven't, but prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks mobile app, when you sign up and you make your first deposit, use our code 5. That's FIVE. Use our code 5, and they're going to match your first deposit 100% up to $100. So if you deposit $100 or $50, 75, whatever, they're going to double your first deposit. And it's so quick and easy to make your selections. If you already have a good idea who you want to pick, it's going to take you 30 seconds to make your selections. You simply select 2, 3, 4, even 5 players, and you can go cross sport on this. You can have, the quarterbacks from the title game tonight. You can have some NBA players in there as well. Mix and match them however you want to. And you predict if these players are going to go over or under their stat projections. And if you get your predictions correct, it's like a parlay. You win your money. You can win 5, 10, 20 times your money for getting these predictions correct. Here's the frustrating thing, Troy, for Dolphins Bills this weekend. So it's we don't know who's going to be at running back for the Dolphins this week. We don't know who's going to be the quarterback for the Dolphins this week. So they're pretty sparse on Dolphins selections. But what do you think about Josh Allen, his passing yards for this week against your Miami Dolphins? Over under 265.5 at home. Troy, I hate to say it, but I think I'm going over 265.5 on Josh Allen.
That's a tough one, man. And again, I say it all the time. It really doesn't matter what number within reason. If it was 220, we say, yeah, definitely over. But 265, I'm sitting there saying, this goes back to the first time the Miami Dolphins played against the Buffalo Bills, the second time they played up there in Buffalo against the Bills. The Miami Dolphins are not intimidated by this situation. They just have to be healthy. I want to go over as well when it comes to Josh Allen. I just hope that they change up the scheme a little bit and trying to defend him and not allow him to get going. But if I was a betting man, which I am, I would go Josh Allen over. I would definitely go over.
By the way, did you see what happened to Bernie Kosar? That he was, he was working for the Browns, and he got fired because he made a bet on the Browns, and I guess they have a rule about team employees, which he should have known better. But I saw like it sucks because apparently when he made the bet, he was planning on donating the winnings to charity, so it was more of like a publicity stunt than anything else. But the publicity
can't do
stunt
that.
went awry because he's a team employee who was promoting gambling, which is weird because the NFL has betting sponsors. So it's like it's become such a gray area. But yeah, you don't want to.
You cannot make that information known that you're
Yeah.
actually betting on a game because
Right.
you will have, or Bernie was privy to certain information, no matter how small or
That's
big.
true. That's true.
And so you can't have that. I can recall the very first meeting I had when I became a Miami Dolphin. It was from NFL officials, and they talked about the importance of not gambling on games. They talked about all the scams that are out there, from family members calling you, asking you, so, how is the quarterback feeling? Or how is the wide receiver feeling? He's like, those are people that are betting on games.
Yeah.
They talked about women who lure you in and they get information from you. So it's taken very seriously.
That would totally work on me. Like if I was an NFL player and like some hot number was trying to honeypot me to get betting information, honey, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Yeah. Marino, he's got a sprained thumb. Write it down.
He's sick as a dog. He had a fever for the last 3 days.
Yeah.
You got to be very careful with that.
That's one of the perks of being an NFL player right there.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, Bernie got himself caught up into that situation, and he lost his job because of it.
And he lost the bet too, I think, because if he was betting on the Browns, they lost by 14, so there was no way he covered. So he lost the bet and the job.
We don't know which way he was betting.
Okay, fair point. So
that's right.
All this to say, if you'd like to make these selections, and by the way, Prize Picks fully legal in the state of Florida. So if you want to make your selections at Prize Picks, prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks mobile app, make sure you sign up with our code, and that's FIVE, F-I-V-E. Don't forget it, because when they ask, hey, do you have a promo code? You do. It's FIVE, and they're going to double your first deposit up to $100. Prize Picks truly is daily fantasy made easy. Here on the Extra Yard, Alex Donno alongside Troy Stradford, former Miami Dolphins player. So, Troy, the deck is heavily stacked against the Dolphins this weekend, okay?
Yes.
So you have to play in Buffalo in January. That's no picnic. You're going up against a team that is motivated by a very powerful external factor of Damar Hamlin, who is, thank God, doing so much better. Like it's warmed my heart to see the progress that Hamlin has made over the past week since he suffered cardiac arrest. He might even be at the game if they can find a way to get him there out of the hospital. I'm not sure. That's just me hypothesizing. But, he's been conscious. He's been speaking. He was tweeting over the weekend. So that's been a powerful motivating factor for Buffalo, and I do not discount that factor. And the Bills they're a healthier looking squad than the Dolphins are right now. Let's start with the latest news that came out today. Raheem Mostert, who was very productive yesterday before leaving the game with injury. The injury that Mostert suffered 71 yards into a really good game yesterday against the Jets. He suffered a broken thumb. I'm not sure if it was the right hand or left hand. If anyone knows that, let us know in the chat, because I was looking at like the official stories about it, and Ian Rappaport, who broke the news, he didn't specify whether it was the right thumb or the left thumb, so I'm not so sure. And Troy, you can explain to us why that makes a difference, right? That if it's his dominant hand or non-dominant hand, do you think with a broken thumb, do you think we're going to see Raheem Mostert this week?
If it's on his dominant hand and his broken thumb, probably not, because he's more comfortable carrying the football in that hand, right? So he will not be able to anchor it down, because if it's broken, they got to put some type of a little soft cast on it to play. Now, if it's his non-dominant hand, there's an outside chance that he could play in this game, because I played with running backs, in particular Barry Sanders, who he actually had a broken hand, his non-dominant hand. Half the people on the team didn't even know he had it. His pain threshold was off the charts. He just put a piece of cushion on his hand for like the next 4 or 5 weeks, and he played in football games. You never knew it, right? I go, this guy is absolutely like from another world or something like that. So there's an outside chance, but the thumb is also the anchor. You need that to kind of lock that ball in as a running back. So I'm going to say it's a long shot that he could play, just because of the pain that will come with. Can they shoot it up? Yeah, they can, but it's broken. So when you have a broken hand, it's more likely that you're not going to be able to play. So unfortunately.
Yeah, because and I like Jeff Wilson a lot, but you want to have that 1-2 punch, right? You want to have Mostert with Wilson. Salvon Ahmed could be like the next guy up in the rotation. He did have he had a big carry yesterday. He had 1 carry for 7 yards, and it was probably the biggest carry of the game because it put the Dolphins in range for that game-winning field goal.
Can I say something about that call?
Sure.
That call was so ballsy to have a guy who had not played all game long, right? Yeah. No touches, and in a key situation, you kind of trust him to give him the football. I'm sitting there saying, you got to be kidding me, man. Number one, his nerves had to be running high. It's like, oh, snap. I'm in the game. I'm about to get a carry. This is an important, part of the football game, if not the biggest run in that football game, outside of the Miami Dolphins getting the 4th down run with Wilson. I mean, those are the 2 key things when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. So hats off to coach for calling that, for the running back being prepared to play in that situation and getting the job done. So I love that. I love that when I see athletes, the superstars are going to play. Right. But then you have the filling guys, the backup guys who they're called upon and they come alive in that moment. And it just shows like the level of professionalism that so many guys play with. Like I tip my hat to Mike Gesicki, how he has been able to be overlooked this year, but yet his mind was totally on point yesterday, making big catches for the Miami Dolphins.
He might be the only guy in that offense who plays better with Skylar Thompson. Have you noticed that? Like he's because he had a big catch from Skylar last week. It's like everybody else, the offense is worse with Skylar Thompson, except Mike Gesicki's going to get his.
Donald, young quarterbacks, the best friend on the team is the tight end. It's an easier throw, although he made a difficult one to Gesicki. The easiest throw, like a lot of times that young quarterback is afraid to let it go and air it out. That tight end is from 5 to 7 yards away from you, and it's an easier throw. So often you'll see them, especially early on in their career, end up throwing to the tight end because it's a safety throw.
Yeah, so Mostert's status is very much in question for Sunday. Yes. We'll see what happens with Teron Armstead. The Dolphins need him back. And, quarterback, Troy, pick a card, any card. Like who's going to – is it going to be Mike Glennon? Is it going to be Skylar Thompson? Is it going to be Teddy Bridgewater? Let's start with Tua because I would feel a lot more confident about his chances getting cleared if this wasn't his second concussion, because from my understanding, and I don't pretend to understand the concussion protocol, but I do know that a factor in the protocol is if you're like a repeat offender, if it's not your first concussion, it's a little bit more rigorous to get through the protocol than it would be otherwise. So I'm definitely concerned, right? I mean, I feel like even if Tua would be able to pass the necessary tests if this were the first concussion of the year, they might still be extra cautious because it's the second concussion. So I don't know. It feels like a coin flip for me whether we see Tua. I think if we don't see Tua, we probably will see Teddy, because I think Teddy is going to be ready by now after the dislocated pinky. But I don't know about Tua, and I don't know if the Dolphins can win this game without him.
I was not aware of the more stringent test for concussion number 2. That plays a role in this. I'm sitting there. I've been sitting here thinking that Tua would be ready to go. First time he sat down for 2 weeks. This is the second time. We're on that 2 weeks again. But that kind of puts a little wrinkle in my thinking, because if it's more stringent and he doesn't pass the thing, there's no way you can let him play, especially what the National Football League is going through right now when it comes to, just feel good stuff, caring about players. We saw what happened with the Buffalo player on the field. They could ill afford to have anything, disastrous happen to Tua, who has had a history of getting concussions this year. So that's a tricky one right there. When the Miami Dolphins won this game, I sat there and I said, no shot without Tua. No shot. With Skylar out there, I say no shot.
The guy can't score touchdowns. With Skylar out there, you got to hope you can hold him to 6 points like you did.
Now, the Miami Dolphins did lean on the running game, but, Buffalo is going to score some points.
Then you may not have Mostert, so how can you even lean on the running game?
They got a monumental task ahead of them to figure out some type of game plan. Can they win with Teddy Bridgewater? Teddy has to stay healthy. I think he can manage the game. He can stay healthy. I will say this, in looking at everything, right? The Jets, they had a pretty damn good defense all season long. Yeah. And yes, they shut the Miami Dolphins down from scoring any touchdowns, but our quarterback play was just not at the level that it needed to be, okay? Now, I look at the Buffalo Bills game. That team and that stadium was off the charts. I'm sure it was never that loud there before. You open up the game returning a kickoff for a touchdown. You end up returning a second one for a touchdown. Without those 2 touchdowns, they may lose to the New England Patriots. It was special teams that won that for them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I'm sitting here saying, okay, as much as this emotional push you get being a Buffalo Bills player right now, there has to be a little bit of fatigue that comes along with that as well. Their schedule, their routine, everything is thrown off a little bit. Someone's staying up a little later. They're starting meetings a little later. They got to answer these questions outside of the game day preparation. They have to constantly talk about their fallen teammate. So they could be a little tired. They could have a little fatigue setting in when it comes to that. And so I look at them and I looked at the Buffalo Bills and I go, that wasn't the real Buffalo Bills that I've seen all season long. That was a team that they had a chance of getting beaten in that game.
And they were on the ropes in that game. They were
on the ropes. So I'm sitting there saying, this is why the last trip that the Miami Dolphins took up there in Buffalo, like, you don't hear anybody talking about the weather, do you?
No.
No one mentioned the weather. But all season long, this team is not built for the cold weather. What's going to happen when they have to go up to Buffalo? And back then, that was the first time I said I found myself saying, I think that was a good loss for the Miami Dolphins. Right? I'm like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? You never said a loss is a good loss. But I thought it was good because I said back then, the next time the Miami Dolphins have to go up there to play the Buffalo Bills, if it's in the playoffs, you won't hear anyone talking about the weather.
Right.
One bit, because the Miami Dolphins showed that they could play in cold weather. It's a football game. You go out there, that's your job, you play. So, I'm not counting the Miami Dolphins out if Teddy Bridgewater had to be on the center, and he has to command this team. I would like to see Tua instead, of course. Everyone would. But I think the Buffalo Bills are a little, I hate to use the word vulnerable, but I think they are. They could be beaten by the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are definitely not scared of them. The defense got to come to play. They got to figure out a way to keep Josh Allen. He's the key. They got to figure out a way to keep him in check.
Yeah, and something I've been thinking about today since I saw the opening odds for this game. I'm probably going to stay away from this one, not because I'm afraid of pulling a Kozar, just because I don't like to bet big games that my teams are involved in because I'm a mush. Okay, but I know, Troy. I know that there are some people in our audience who are such big Dolphins fans. They're just going to bet on the Dolphins because. Right, because they think their team's going to pull off a miracle against all odds. The Dolphins are going to advance. They're going to beat the Bills because no one expects it. So anyone listening to this who falls into that category, if you just think the Dolphins are going to win or at least cover, and you want to bet on your Miami Dolphins, I would recommend doing it early, like early in the week, right? Because, Troy, the spread right now is Bills minus 10.5. That Vegas thinks it's going to be a blowout, right? When you see a double-digit number for an NFL game, Vegas thinks it's basically going to be a blowout. But my theory is between now and Sunday, the news can't get any worse for the Dolphins. It can only get better, right?
True.
Because I feel like if you're looking at Dolphins plus 10.5 today, you're assuming, hey, it's kind of already priced into the odds that, hey, Tua probably not going to play. Teron Armstead maybe not going to play. Raheem Mostert maybe probably not going to play. So it's like worst case scenario. If we get any good news during the week, then that number may shrink into like 9.5, 9 points. So
correct.
If you're just going to bet the Dolphins no matter what, if you really have balls, you'll bet the money line. But if you want to bet the Dolphins to cover the spread no matter what, I recommend locking it in early, not later, because I don't think the news can get any worse. Like unless somebody gets hurt in practice or something this
Very
week,
good
knock
point.
on wood, it can't get any worse. It can only get better.
Very good point. I am staying away from the game personally. I stayed away from the game yesterday. I said, I've been betting the Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua all year long. I won some, I lost some. But yesterday, I placed no bets. I sat there and I enjoyed football. I watched it. I wasn't looking at my computer or anything like that.
Right.
I'm going to stay away from the Dolphin game, but I'll be involved in the other games. Like I'll be involved with championship game tonight. Prize Picks.
Yeah. Well, and also, guys, if you are looking to bet on the games this weekend, I recommend our betting partner, and that's Better Edge. Partner with us on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. It's BETTOR edge.com. And if you use our special URL, it's betteredge.com/5 reasons, the number 5, and then the word reasons. They're going to give you a special bonus, a $20 bonus just for signing up with our referral code. And the thing that's cool about Better Edge is, and I know our guy Trevor, TH in the 203, he's in the chat. I know he's used it before, as have I. It's fully legal in, I think, 46 states, including Florida. That's what matters. It's legal in the state of Florida because you're not betting against the house. You're actually betting against other people. It's like a social platform. So the number that you take, if you take, Dolphins plus 10.5, or if you make your own number, you can find action on Dolphins plus 14. If you're a little bit less daring on that, you find somebody on the other end of that, you're betting against real people. So it's a social platform. It's pretty ingenious because, it's not considered a sports book. And also you don't have a sports book taking a cut. So you're not paying juice on your bet. So if you want to try it out, he says he used it to bet the under on Dolphins Jets under 39.5. Boom. He was kicking his feet up at the end of the first quarter. He's like, they're not scoring 39.5 points.
He was watching the game like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was easy street for Trevor. So sign up at betteredge.com, BETTOR edge.com/5 reasons. And just for using our referral link, they're going to hook you up with a $20 deposit bonus just for signing up with our referral link. So, yeah. And you know what, Troy, I want to announce to the people, we're going to wrap it up here in a moment. That's the bad news. The good news is we're going to do a special pregame edition on Thursday. So we're going to come at you Thursday. And I wanted to wait a few days, Troy, before we come back on, because by Thursday, we're going to have a much better idea of who's going to be under center for the Dolphins. We're going to, I'm sure, have some status reports on Tua, Teddy, and we're going to be able to really tackle this preview.
Everyone across the board, we should have a better idea. Now, these coaches, they're going to try and keep it close to their vest if there are any injuries. But the NFL, because it's such a big gambling industry, it really is, you know, by rules, you are supposed to announce who practiced, who didn't practice, status of this guy, status of that guy. But they always skirt around that by saying, oh, he's a game time decision. But we should have a little bit more information on Thursday.
Yeah, we should. So huge shout out and thank you to everybody who watched and listened to this episode. Make sure, by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can also get the audio version of the Extra Yard on the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast feed, which is the quintessential Miami Dolphins podcast. Alf, Simon, Chris do an awesome job on 3 Yards Per Carry. You can find the Extra Yard audio version on the 3 Yards Per Carry feed. So make sure you subscribe to that. For former Miami Dolphin Troy Stradford, I am Alex Donno, and we will talk to you guys on Thursday, same time, same bat channel, 3 o'clock for another Extra Yard pregame edition here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. See ya.